I remember getting kicked out of the mall for like trying to sell CDs, getting that reaction and thinking like, damn, I can really make people feel with the words that I'm writing. Especially at that time, like I had no support from family at all.
Hello, my fellow Martians. My name is Harry Mars, and this is the On Mars Pod, where we take a deep dive into creative professionals, entrepreneurs, and other inspiring Martians alike.
Today, we are joined by This Modern's frontman, Marcus Reardon.
So there were days where it's just like, I just felt a lot of like unnecessary pressure. I still haven't been there and done that. And so to be in a room full of people who are just experienced and just masters at what they do, it just forces me to step my game up.
I think that's like the difference between someone who makes it and someone that does it. Hello, my fellow Martians. Today on Mars, we have a touring rapper turned frontman of a very successful rock band out here in Phoenix, Arizona. Today, we have Marcus Reardon, aka Modern Marcus. Thank you for being here today.
Hello. Thank you for having me, my friend.
Yes, of course, man. So just to kind of touch on that successful rock band, reason why I say that is because these guys have garnered over 200,000 monthly listeners on Spotify as of recently.
Yeah, very recent.
Which is a really, really big feat, man. How do you feel about that, man? I mean, what does that feel like compared to like when you were just getting started and having like 100 and you were getting excited just because anyone was listening, you know?
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you for having me. This is really cool because we've been talking about this for like 8 years. Get stuff like this set up. This is awesome. I'm fucking so proud of you for making this all happen. So yes, thank you for having me on. But dude, it feels crazy. I don't even really know how to act, you know, because it's always crazy. Like you knock down certain goals and you expect it to feel a type of way until you have knocked down like a bunch of things and it just nothing feels different, you know? Yeah. So for me, it's just, I'm super grateful that the Spotify gods are like being really nice to us right now. But I don't know, it doesn't feel a whole lot different. My day-to-day hasn't changed and I'm just trying to just like keep my head down and keep making the best possible music. Because if I think about it for too long, like I'll get complacent.
Absolutely. And I was talking about this with Casey too, where it's like, you can't let yourself get to a point where you're comfortable because when you do get to that point and you kick your feet up, that's exactly when you start backpedaling.
Exactly.
So it's just like the way that you guys are like putting your foot on the gas and, you know, creating singles, releasing every month and doing like EP release coming soon.
Yep.
All those things are, you know, kind of feeding into the 200,000.
Exactly.
So you're not just like, all right, let's ride this wave.
Yeah, and the other thing is too is like I acknowledge that the real reason that we even got here is because of that Unholy remix we did with Futuristic and Dropout Kings and the Color 8, which is almost at 2 million. Sorry, 2 million,
which is insane.
Just on fucking Spotify. So not even counting any other platforms, that song has been streamed like well over 2 million times now. We've never had an original song go crazy like this one is, so that's next. You know, I feel like I'll feel a little bit more secure in with our numbers if we have like an original doing that sort of shit. But for now, yeah, it's just that cover. It was the best decision we probably ever made, and so it'll probably feel different once I've got like some actual originals that are doing those sorts of numbers too.
Yeah, I mean, and something I did want to end up talking about eventually is like the power of collaboration and how that can like just scale you in just, you know, astronomically because, you know, there's people that have gone from like no monthly listeners at all and then they just get discovered by someone gets reposted or something, you know what I'm saying? And that is something a little bit different, but like when you're actually working with other artists, that's just like literally garnering all of their audience as well, which is just it's crazy how like people, I don't know, I feel like a lot of creatives have like a little bit of a pride, you know, that's just kind of a natural thing.
100%.
But that's just a testament to how important it is to like work with people and make it happen like that.
Especially for us people who have like been there and done that, you know. I've collaborated with all sorts of artists, and 98% of the people I've collaborated with haven't really seen much success personally, and they're just like people I know. But yeah, working with folks who have the audience and the experience, it's made all the difference in the world, you know, not just like monthly listener count, but, you know, I think I was even telling you, like, I'll get into a room with a lot of these folks and just feel like an imposter, just classic imposter syndrome, especially in times where like we're shooting like we'll do the remix, we'll shoot the video that night. It's in those moments where I feel most like, I guess, uncomfortable with it, because especially working next to Zach Futuristic is like, he is so good on camera. He's unbelievable. Anything from like his facial expressions to his body movements are so just dialed in for those sorts of like quick little one take videos, to where when I get on, I feel like I just haven't done it enough. And so I kind of feel awkward, but fortunately, I don't think it really translates, you know, to the video. Like, I don't think the audience will see it or listen to it and feel like I'm out of place, or feel like I'm out of place. But me personally, yeah, that's something that I'm still dealing with, is in certain rooms with certain individuals, just trying to step my own game up, because I haven't been there and done that, you know, not yet. Like, I'm currently kind of on my way, but I still haven't been there and done that. And so to be in a room full of people who are just experienced and just masters at what they do, both recording and, you know, video wise, it just forces me to step my game up. And I think I've gotten a lot better at it just in the time that we've been working with Zach and doing the remixes and all that sort of stuff. So eventually I feel like that imposter syndrome will go away, and I'll feel like, yeah, this is a room that like I'm supposed to be in.
Yeah.
Because right now, yeah, sometimes I really struggle with that.
Yeah, and I feel like it's something that a lot of people that are on that cusp struggle with as well. Just because but that just shows you that you're doing something right.
Right, yeah.
Because of the fact that you weren't in those rooms
before
a year ago. And it's just like, that's just kind of like showing that's your progress right there.
For sure.
So it's hard though, like I'm sure being that person, like being in the moment and like seeing the numbers, and like when you say like, I don't know how to act, it's just like that, you know what I'm saying?
Oh,
like,
you know, I don't know. Like, I don't know what the proper response is, you know, like in my mind, I'm like, shoot,
like, am I supposed to be here? But like, but yes, you are, because of all, like, then you look back at everything that you've done, and, you know what I'm saying?
Correct. And then I say like, it'll probably feel different when I have an original, but it probably won't.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just that grass is always greener on the other side, like mentality. Always. When in reality, that's not always the case. So yeah, one day at a time, man. And like I said, I'm endlessly proud, but I definitely don't feel any different about it. It feels just like I still have 100 monthly listeners, you know, and it's not like I get like recognized on the street or anything like that. At least usually, like, right. There's like a handful of times that it has ever even happened, but I'm sure eventually, like, the further we get into this and like the bigger we grow, it'll kind of seep into real life, and like it'll start to feel different. Life itself will start to feel a little bit different, but for now, it's just like you said, I can't even afford to let myself feel any different right now, or else like it'll stop, or something will change about the dynamic to where the momentum will slow down, and we don't want any of that.
Yeah, man. I mean, and since we were kind of talking about like the beginning, let's kind of take it back. The whole reason why we met was because I was out here. I had just moved out here 3 months prior to meeting you, and I was out here making music, trying to find people that went to ASU that made music and were like rappers, and you just happen to fit that criteria. And I did like so much research and only messaged one person, and it was teammate Marcus. And so Marcus hit me back, and I met up with him a couple days later at his apartment where he was living with a few other homies that are still the homies today. And they were recording. So kind of when I met you, that wasn't necessarily when you guys had started, right? Yeah, because you guys were making music in like 2013, right?
Well,
like,
my first ever project came out New Year's Day 2011.
Wow. So before 2011, did you have like Like, you used to play music, right?
Yeah.
Like, you were in band?
Yep, I played the trumpet, like, I don't know, 4th grade-ish, and I played the drums, and my whole family, specifically my dad's side of the family, was just, like, musically gifted as shit. Like, they can all play 40 different instruments, and they're all pretty classically trained, and it was all, like, church-based, though. My dad's side is, like, mega religious, and so all of their kind of talents and efforts were going into church style music and like making sure that the church music on Sunday was like on point and everyone's staff and the Christmas masses and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And so I've always been surrounded by a ton of just like really gifted folks. For whatever reason, for me, I think the instrument side of things never really stuck. I've always just like really loved writing.
Yeah.
Since I was a kid, I think all my teachers from like 1st grade on recognized that I had some writing chops on me. And so the message that I was always fed is like, the pen is mightier than the sword. The pen is mightier than the sword. Like, and so for me, it's just like the power of words and language has always kind of gripped me more than anything else. And I've been fortunate enough to be surrounded by folks my whole life who were able to play the instruments and nail all that, to where I just had to focus on the emotions and the words and like the rhyme schemes and things like that. So ever since just writing poetry as a kid, but yeah, I prior to 2011 and dropping that tape, I hadn't recorded any music ever. We just started in 2010. Me and a buddy of mine were just writing raps to whatever song was popular. I think the first rap I ever wrote was to the Forever beat, the Lil Wayne and Drake. And
oh yeah,
I want this shit forever, man.
Yeah.
So we all got like Ryland, Ryland, like a lot of the guys that still, like we would meet at a Barrow's Pizza in Mesa. And we would all write a verse, to like the Forever beat, for example. And we'd sit around the car and someone would turn up the beat on their, radio, and we'd sit there and we'd rap through all of our stuff.
Yeah.
And there was me and one other kid who actually like people would be like, oh, okay. And it probably wasn't very good, but it was better than what everyone else was doing. And like we had never really tried it before. And so me and that kid who had some chops, his name is Justin. He's still a great friend of mine today. We just decided like, let's do this thing, man. Like we would super hype each other up. And then a friend of a friend, dad had a recording studio in the basement, and we would pull up. And it's so funny. My friend's younger brother, Ammon Duffin, he was in like 8th grade. And he was sitting there like mixing our vocals and stuff. And like, we're all trying to piece it together. And like, it sounded like shit, but to us, it sounded so good because it was us and it was like ours.
First time hearing yourself on a track.
100%. And so we were just like, you're just hooked. You had me hooked, like hook, line, and sinker. It's like, I just was so addicted to that feeling of just like creating a song with the homies, jamming a song with the homies, feeling like you're unstoppable sort of a thing. It was just something about the experience of making the music with the friends that just like had me. We released that tape on New Year's Day. We took it to Tempe Marketplace over here, and we were selling copies and handing out copies, and they kicked us out. I remember they getting kicked out of the mall for like trying to sell CDs.
Wow.
And we had all sat in a room with like laptops and a bunch of blank discs, and we just burned them onto blank discs, like a bunch of us, like 5, 6 of us, and we made like 100, 200 of these. And I don't think we ever gave out all of them.
Yeah. They're still somewhere in the vault.
Yeah, somewhere, dude. I've tried to find it on the internet, but it's just gone. Like like those songs just don't exist anywhere anymore. And it's not like we were getting any press or anything. So I don't even think it was like a SoundCloud link. It was, I don't even remember the platform that we had it on.
We need one of those CDs.
Yeah. So I need to find the CDs. Yeah. If anyone has it, let me know.
Yeah.
I doubt it, but yeah, that's where it all started. And like I said, I just got really hooked to, I guess, the experience of it all, and just like being creative as hell with friends was just like enough to just send me over the edge and like put me on this path.
Yeah, and then that tied with your love for writing and creative writing at that.
Yeah.
And writing poetry, which obviously poetry are lyrics, basically.
Yeah, and I opened up a box of memories that I have sitting in my garage.
Yes.
My mom gave me a few years back, and I found a ton of poems that I had written in like the 5th and 6th grade. And I still to this day was like, damn, that's kind of good. You know what I mean? Like I was actually super impressed with a lot of what I wrote as like a 6th grader. Which is, it sounds, maybe it's just me reading my own shit.
No, and I think it's cool because I talked about this with both Akili and Casey, how it's like when you're a kid, there's like sparks in like little things that like kind of like when you're older and you know how you end up, it's like, oh, that makes sense. Why I was doing that, why I loved that, why,
correct.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it took me right back to that place. And like my teacher would write a note like, hey, this is excellent, whatever. And so that was always just my lane. Like, math, science, never, ever to this day. Like I don't
writing.
Yeah, it's all about just like writing words. I always enjoyed like I would do like advanced classes, and it was like I would enjoy the shit out of my English classes. Always. I didn't always like literature classes per se, like delving into books and finding certain things, but I just loved writing. And when they would give me an assignment like write about whatever you want, I would be like, holy shit, yeah. I remember one time it was like the assignment was just like write about something that you're passionate about in like your own voice. It shouldn't sound like an educational article. Like find your voice. It can be funny. It can be whatever you want it to be. And I wrote a paper on karaoke. Nice. And how I just like love to sing karaoke for hours at a time. And I remember my English class was cracking up and my teacher was just clapping and like I was like, yeah, it was, and those are just kind of like planting seeds that like,
totally,
you know, reciting something in front of a group of people and getting a reaction. You know, it was like my first taste of like, damn.
Especially talking about karaoke. Then you actually liked it.
Right. Yeah, I loved it. And that was the only like performing I had ever done. But like we had a karaoke machine at the house. Me and my cousins would always do it. And so I was like, that would be kind of a funny angle. Like she said, write about anything. Like, I want to write about singing karaoke and how it like pumps me up, you know, and gets me going and shit. And so it sounds like the stupidest thing ever, but it's just like a little core memory of mine to where like, I just remember getting that reaction and thinking like, damn, I can really make people feel with the words that I'm writing. And so
that's it, man. And like the little sparks that you see, it's so cool to have those memories and be able to like see that later on when you're this age and you're, you know, writing music professionally. Really, you know? And
exactly.
Now it just all makes sense. And
it makes all the sense in the world now.
After music, you know, when you started music, you were still in college and you went for journalism.
Yeah, so we graduated that year in 2011, like 5 months after the tape dropped. And then, I went to ASU. I went to the journalism school over there. I moved into the dorms. And anyone who's ever been like a broke college kid can kind of like understand the struggle. But I certainly wasn't in a place to where I could like afford any studio time.
Yeah.
And so at least my freshman year, I didn't have a job. I wasn't making any money. I was just literally living in the dorms, like life of a full-time college student sort of a situation and hating every second of it, I should add. And so my freshman year, I didn't really do shit. It was almost like a full year off of like making music. I remember recording on a laptop microphone once or twice in the dorms, just to kind of try it out. But there was nothing going on. But I knew like once I'm out of the dorms and like have a place of my own and like have a little bit of money, like the first thing I'm gonna do is invest in a microphone. Studio, So you buy a mic and then you hook it up to your computer and then you realize like, oh shit, I need an interface. You know what I mean? Like I just figured like microphone, plug, computer. That's how you do it. You know what I mean? Find a beat, download the file, drag it in, like just literally putting it together from like the very, very, very beginning and like not having anybody in my corner like helping me. It was just like I had to figure out like how do I make this microphone work on this interface. And so it took probably like a year before I felt comfortable in like a little studio setup that I had and just had saved up a bunch to like buy these microphones and like an interface and all that sort of stuff. And then it was just off from there. I started making a ton of songs by myself. I feel like at that point in time, I was probably writing like 2-3 songs a day.
Yeah. And this was the early Teammate Marcus days.
Yeah.
Like, you hadn't done any shows yet officially.
No, I hadn't done any shows. I hadn't dropped any project, but it was kind of during that time that my first ever project was my first solo project, I should say, was kind of coming to life, and I didn't even really know it, you know. I think at that point in time, maybe 1 out of every 5-6 songs I was making was even possible to release. Like, and I've never been the type to where I hear my shit and like I automatically assume it's the best, because I feel like that's what a lot of people do. Like,
yeah,
it's the best song in the world because it's me, you know. But at that point, I still had kind of an ear for it, and I was just like, it's just not there yet. It's just not there yet. It's just not there yet. And I could have been like, fuck it, put it out. Like, I made it, but I had
holding it close until it was ready to drop in your eyes. Yeah,
I had accumulated probably 70 to 100 songs, and I remember there was a day that I recorded a track called I forget what it was called, dude. I can hear it in my head. Well, whatever. I made this song, Vibe. It was called Vibe. Some shit you can vibe to, bump when you ride to. Oh, yeah. And I remember listening to that the first time and being like, this is the first song I've ever made that is good. This is the only one I've ever made in my whole life that is like good. And I had found like a preset on my audio interface that like made the vocals sound a little like bigger and crisper and clearer. And I was like, holy shit, I did it. I cracked the fucking code. Like, the song works, the lyrics are cool, the beat actually the song itself sounds like it's actually been mixed to some degree. Like, this is it. Like, I fucking did it. And so it was after that song to where like it wasn't 1 out of every 6 songs I was making that was good. It was 1 out of every 2 or 3 songs that were like actually good. And then that's kind of where it all started. I released a project called Order to the Universe. That was just like, my mom used to say that shit. She'd be like, when you want something, you just got to like place your order with the universe. And like, she would like be applying for a new job that was going to be better for her and our life in a general. And so she would roll down the window in the car and be like, universe, like, I need this job. Like, she would just place it with the universe. So it was this kind of like manifestation idea that had always been brought up like in my own mind.
Yeah.
So that's what I called my first project, was Order to the Universe, because it was just like my way of placing my order to the universe.
Totally. And also a little homage to your mom.
Yep. And then I remember I found like a animator of some kind online, and the idea was it was going to be like me and all my friends in space. So I had like this graphic designer or whatever make like cartoon versions of all my friends, and it was like all of us in space was kind of like the theme.
The artwork.
Yeah, and it was like very poorly done. No offense to I forget that guy's name, but it wasn't very good, but it was ours, you know. And so it was like, and we got it back, and everyone was like, that's me, you know, Rylan and Clint and whoever else was like, that's me. So everyone was all pumped up about it. And so I was just super fortunate to have that kind of support from like the homies from in that time specifically.
Yeah.
Because I really didn't, especially at that time, like I had no support from family at all. Yeah. So it was like in that time, my homies really became like my family for that period. I really wasn't talking much to my mom or my dad. And so that was just like the family that was like just holding me down and would show up no matter what. Be the only 20 people in the room if that's what it meant. But they were always there. They're always showing love, listening to tracks, giving feedback, helping with videos. Like everyone would want to help however they could. And, you know, there were times where I was just like trying to pitch the blogs, and I would have like Sam and me and Bryce, and we'd send out like 100 emails each. And like got this list of blogs together, and we'd all sit there and just jam out hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of emails. That ended up being how we got like most of our early blog placements, was just like that grit of just like fucking getting it done. And so, just having them, like it would have all been dead in the water if I didn't have like my homies, like crazy support. And now I'm 30 years old, and like everyone is 30 years old, and people have kids and jobs and girlfriends and fiancés, and it's hard for everyone to just like drop everything and focus on what I'm doing, you know? And so after we were out of college, it's not that the support stopped, it was just in different ways, you know? But if I didn't have their like daily support at the very beginning, I would absolutely be dead in the water. Like I would have never kept going.
Yeah, and that's an important point that I'm glad that you brought up, because not everyone has close family, and it's something that like everyone sometimes assume that when you grow up that you like grow up close to your family and like you grow up close to your siblings and all that stuff, and it's just not always the case, especially like with you at a young age. I know like you moved out early because you had to. So it's like,
and I tell this story sometime, like when I was in high school in 2010 and I was at the studio, my dad, so me and my dad have like had a tumultuous relationship. Like we're beyond cool today as an adult, you know, but it's been tumultuous. Like growing up, it was really bad. I spent a lot of time getting kicked out of houses. My mom would kick me out. My dad would kick me out. My mom would kick me out. And I was just like a ping pong ball a lot of my high school career. But I remember my dad tried to like ban me from ever going to the studio ever again. You know, it was just like the dumbest shit he had ever heard. His mind doesn't work like that. And so he tried to just like ground me, ban me. And he probably succeeded for like a few months until I was like, dude, fuck that. Like after school, I'm coming right over. Like he doesn't ever have to know, sort of a situation. And so you fast forward to today though, like he was at my Mesa Music Festival show and he's been to a few in that time. And he just eats it up. You know what I mean? He brings his friends. That Mesa Music Festival specifically, I'm playing for like 3,000 people, which is among probably the biggest shows we've ever done. And he's sitting there and the production level is insane. And I'm singing my ass off and I shout him out in between songs. I'm like, that's my dad right there. And he puts his hands up and he's smiling and he's waving. And then he goes to get a beer and like he gets swarmed. Like, aren't you that kid's dad? Aren't you guys? He comes back to the merch booth and he tells me, he's like, I just got swarmed at the beer line. Everyone was like, are you his dad? Are you his dad? Same thing with my mom. My mom went to this big show of mine with Hawthorne Heights and Flagstaff. And my godmother got to go too. And they both, same thing. Shouted them out. And then it was just like free drinks all night. Like everyone was coming up to them and giving them free drinks. They both felt like celebrities is what they told me. It's just like, we felt like celebrities, you know? And so it's just so funny now to think back at like the resistance that was really put up to it at first and just, I guess, not understanding it.
Yeah. And I mean, back then it was local rap.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And that's what I was making, you know?
And it's like kind of, we should talk about that real quick, like doing local rap shows.
Yeah.
In like, almost like in comparison to being like a rock band. It's just like different genre, different like audience, different different like supporting artists, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, so it got hard, especially like in the age that I was kind of coming up doing the rap stuff where everyone's a young this or a little this or a you know,
SoundCloud rap.
Yeah, so it got really, really hard to get my family to come out to see like teammate Marcus featuring Young Money from the Five and Chapo Guapo.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
So
like,
do you think that played into why they didn't want to fucking be
there? I think so. At least for like my immediate family. I think my sister was always like pretty game for it. But my dad and my mom were absolutely just like not about it at all. Yeah. And then you go into like the family I was talking about, the getting my dad's side, who did all like the church music and stuff. Like some of those folks to this day, and I grew up with all of them, have still never seen me play.
Wow.
Or like done so much as like share a video or anything. Like, so to this day, like my immediate family is like on board, but it's crazy, to think that I still have family members who can see me doing this for well over 10 years now and like never want to share, never want to talk about it, never want to come to a show. So it's all love. I just learned like that's not what I need. Like that level of validation is like so far behind me to where like at one time, I want my older cousins to like think that I'm dope. That's the goal. Or like the kids are in the grade ahead of me. Like I want them to think I'm cool. But like nowadays it's like, damn, I want like the world to appreciate this. And that's more so where my focus is at than like any specific person being there in my corner for me.
Yeah, man. So the importance of like having friends as family, I think, is something that like a lot of people can relate to. Especially,
you need a team.
Yeah, especially when like it's just. I think there's like we kind of grew up in an era where a lot of people's families were divorced.
Yeah.
So I think a majority of my friends growing up had divorced parents. So you're splitting households. So that alone is like a whole different type of dynamic.
Yeah.
Which is tough, but
it was different and it like provided me with a lot of perspective. So my dad was pretty well off, and he still is. He was an attorney for a long time. He's still like a corporate contract attorney. He's almost 65 now, so he's gonna retire soon. I hope. Honestly, he probably should have already. I wish he would have. Yeah. But it's crazy because my mom was like on the opposite end of the spectrum, and she's kind of playing like the single mom who's really struggling, and like we got evicted from our house in 2008 when the market crashed. And we had to move back in with my grandparents. So I was staying in like a little room on like a pull-out sofa for probably almost a year just with my grandparents. And so it was just interesting, like having lived, it was like a double life. Like half of the week I was really well off. You know what I mean?
Living with your dad.
And half of the week we were struggling.
On a mattress,
Yeah, to pay any sort of bills and moving from house to house to house and watching my mom like struggle with men and shit like that. So it's it really was, it provided me with like kind of an interesting take on life, and like I feel like I can understand both sides in a way that a lot of people can't. A lot of people are either rich or poor. I don't know a lot of people who like got to experience both.
Yeah. And that plays into your story though, you know, which ends up translating into the music that you write.
Yeah.
So just like, because I think sometimes when you have it too good, you don't have enough struggle to write about.
Exactly. Yeah, big time, man. So definitely grateful for that perspective. I never went without per se, but I definitely saw both sides of that coin.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Hey, well, shout out the fucking teammate crew, man.
Shout out to all the teammate crew, man. Teammate crew. And they still show up for me, like it's different now. Like I said, just being an adult and everyone's got like their own lives, and it's just it's not about me anymore.
It's funny that that's kind of like that was it though. Like it was like, all right, Marcus, what we doing?
Yeah, everybody. There was a time like I remember I used to talk to my mom about it. Like everyone is just working on like blowing me up, and it was like kind of a ton of pressure, and like also having to like be in college and all that sort of stuff. It was just a lot at that time because like, for example, Klug, one of my best friends in the world, he's coming over a little bit later. He there was a time where like you would have asked him like, what's your plan with videography? And he would have been like, just wait for Marcus to fucking blow up and we're gonna go do this thing for real,
Yeah.
So it was like, shit, okay, so now it's not just like the fate of me, but it's the fate of my one of my best friends.
Yeah,
and
totally.
Like Sam, same thing. It's like, well, what are you gonna do? Well, I'm gonna manage Marcus. You know what I mean? And Bryce, same thing. So it got, and like Trevor, even my buddy Trevor was like, well, I'm gonna learn how to make beats and like I'm gonna be your producer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Right. And then Brandon was gonna be my DJ. And then by the time like we had seen this much success and we'd gotten posted on all these publications that I had like always dreamed of, like Good Music All Day and This Song Is Sick and all these like blogs that don't really exist in that form anymore. So once everyone kind of got like a small, tiny baby taste of it, it was like, okay, this is it. This is what we're doing. And so there were days where it's just like, I just felt a lot of like unnecessary pressure. And my mom would be like, you're not responsible for those people. And I'd be like, I kind of am.
That's a tough position to be in.
Yeah, I felt like I kind of am. Like, and it's different now. Like, obviously we've got the whole band, but it's for all of us now. It's different when we're all working towards like the same, I don't know. I guess just having a band dynamic is different than just like all your friends just waiting on you to blow up sort of a situation to where they can't even really do much.
Right. And it's not like they're just sitting around waiting. They're also helping promote. Yeah. They're helping figuring out how to like DIY this shit with you,
Correct.
Which I think is a really big important part of the story, because it's just like, DIY has always been the mission for like ever since I've known you. I've always been the same way. DIY or die. It's just like you figure it out, and it's like having that team around you is probably so much easier to like get shit done.
In my life, I think one time in college, I wasn't really doing much, but I remember like scrounging up enough money to do one like studio time at this place in Phoenix called, and like I thought it was the coolest shit ever. It wasn't.
Right.
But I think ultimately, like outside of that person, I've never worked with an outside like engineer at all. Like
that's good.
I was mixing, mastering my own shit when I was just doing it by myself. And that stands true today. Like this modern has never ever worked with an outside producer. And I tell people that these days, you know, people who are interested in helping or connecting or whatever, and they'll want to kind of get to know us better. And so what kind of producers do you guys work with? It's like you're looking at them.
Yeah, exactly.
You're looking at them. We don't
exactly.
And it's funny too, because just knowing my bandmates now, even if let's say we went to LA, did a studio session with a producer, whoever, they'd end up sending those files back to us, and we'd probably redo all of them, because that's just how it works.
Yeah,
that's just how Timo thinks. That's just how Sean thinks. To where like, oh shit, yeah, the tracks are fine, but like if we did them ourselves, it would be way better. So let's just redo this.
It's their baby.
Yeah,
for sure.
Always. And so they're really. I mean, to this day, we're all a little bit hesitant of it, but I think that's an important next step for us, is like being willing to let an outside ear in. And so we're finally kind of at a point where it's like, okay, if you see what we're doing and you appreciate what you're doing and you like what we're doing and you feel like you can improve what you're doing, and you're somebody who's like notable and has, like I said, been there and done that, I might be putting myself at a disadvantage by saying no to that sort of thing. And that's something you and I have talked about for years, is just like saying yes to the opportunities.
Yeah, for sure.
I've just traditionally never been someone that says no a lot, you know? And as I get older, I kind of have to pick and choose like things that I really want out of life, as opposed to just saying yes to everything. But generally speaking, when an opportunity like presents itself, my gut instinct is always to say yes. Yeah. Always, always, always. And
figure it out later.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so that's kind of what we've done. So yeah, we've got an opportunity right now actually to go out to LA later this year and write with a couple people who have done it, and a couple people who have written songs that I personally love, that it's like, okay, maybe there's something here, you know, maybe there's an opportunity for us to get better through that opportunity.
Absolutely. And it's sometimes not even necessarily the mixing itself, it's the relationship you build, the relationships that he has, that he might show his work to somebody else if he's excited about it, you know. And that's that kind of opportunity where it's just like you could just be in more conversations in LA.
Yeah, absolutely.
In the crowd,
especially out there. I've never felt like I needed to be in LA to like make noise, which is something different than a lot of artists. It's like, well, as soon as I get to LA, like everyone's there, and I'll have like networks and connections and la 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 la. It is a little backwards, like we've always said. It's like you're just becoming a smaller fish in a bigger pond.
Right.
Whereas out here, the pond is the size that it is, and like our fish has just grown.
Yeah.
So I feel like one of the bigger fish in like a smaller pond. But if I get thrown out into the LA scene, like all of a sudden I'm small fish again. Yeah. There's fucking 150 other people doing big fish, at the same level as me.
Yeah.
Whereas out here, as far as like numbers wise and just general hype wise, there's just not a lot of folks that are doing it at the level that we are. And so yeah, I just feel like it's easier to take over this little space that I've been born and raised in. Like, why go take this show somewhere else?
Yeah, absolutely. But like you said, it's like you don't need to live out there to like take advantage of opportunities. Like, you know, you have producers hitting you up, travel out there for a day, record for a day or whatever.
Maybe get a show or two in.
Get
like,
a show.
It's easy enough to
come
get
back.
Out there.
Yeah, and just like you don't have to live out there, and just to like touch the waters.
Correct. Yeah, dude, I got a car. I could be there in 6 hours.
You know that's the beautiful thing about living in beautiful Phoenix, Arizona.
It's so funny. We always joked about like you get a call and it's like, hey, this is Warner Brothers. I need to meet, but it needs to be in the next hour. It's like, no, like, that doesn't never happen. Like, you can't wait 6 hours for my ass. Like, there's no way I'll ever lose out on opportunity by not being able to get into LA at the drop of a fucking dime. Like, I can drive to LA anytime.
For sure. And yeah, I mean, if it ever gets to that point, it's just like the flight is 45 minutes.
Yeah.
So it's just like,
sure.
And there's so many flights every day.
It's
like, I mean, but that's like, if you ever did get the call from like Warner Brothers, like, yo, this offer expires in 2 hours.
That's what I'm saying. It's like,
that would never happen.
There would never be a situation where like I'm behind because I'm not there right now this very second.
Totally. Right.
And I'm not somebody.
That's more like, hey, something's happening tonight. You have to be here. Like missing out on like a something.
Even if you said like
an event.
Yo, fucking craziest shit ever is happening tonight. Like, what time is it right now? It's fucking 2. I can still be there by 8 or 9.
Yeah, totally.
Like,
yeah. And that just kind of goes into the next topic I want to talk about, which is the investment of time and money into yourself and into the band and the brand of this modern, and I think it takes a village. Everyone says that, but
big time.
It's just like it takes a village of people investing their time and their money.
Yeah.
So kind of talk about that and how much it's important, how important it is.
Yeah. So the investment of time, and that's the investment of time specifically, is something that I think about all the fucking time. Like I think about time probably to like an unhealthy level sometimes. Like whether it's me feeling like the clock is ticking and I'm like getting older and we need to be like at a certain place, or just like I recently we were writing that song together, Stoplight Waiting for No One. And that song is literally just in theory, just like, how much time have you wasted waiting for literally nobody?
Yeah.
Right? And it's just a stupid example of like, you're in a car, you're at a red light. There is no fucking buddy for miles either way. Like, and I'm sitting here waiting on fucking what? So that just the concept of time. And something else too that I think about as it pertains to like music is that this shit isn't a hobby. That's the one thing that I try to tell people. Like, this is not a class I'm taking. It's not a hobby that I do. Like, people are like, I do music. Okay, so when do you do music? Like what does that mean? You do it. Like, I've always felt like we live it, right? Like, is this your hobby or is it your lifestyle? So I kind of long time ago stopped like trying to be like, well, I'm gonna be at the studio fucking 5 to 7 to like make it super robotic, and it's way more fluid than that. Like a studio session could happen today if I wanted it to. And so it's the difference of just like my whole life is just like devoted to this, and I've set it up to where I'm no longer thinking about it. I mean, it takes a ton of time, but I think the difference is the people who are sitting there thinking like, oh fuck, this is taking so much time, versus this is just what I do. Right. Yeah. It's a lifestyle. It's more sustainable to just like live it and not think so much about, oh, this is either taking too much time or whatever. Like, let it come as it comes. No, that doesn't make a ton of sense, but you kind of understand what I'm saying.
I 100% understand. And it's like the people that are saying like, oh, this is taking too much time. They don't have the passion and drive to take it to the level that you need to have. To take it to the, it's like, and I think that's like the difference between someone who makes it and someone that does it.
Yeah. Like I said, it's just a lifestyle that I've been able to build for myself to where I am not thinking about the amount of time that I'm putting forth. I look back and I'm like, damn, this has been over 10 years of like me putting in a ton of time, but it doesn't feel like time wasted. It barely feels like time spent. It's just like, what else would I have been doing?
Yeah, Malcolm Gladwell in Outliers talks about the 10,000 hour rule. Yeah, and that's a real thing. And it's like sometimes people can do it in less when they master things faster, but like generally, like on average, 10 years is about 10,000 hours.
Yeah.
So it's like takes 10 years to be an overnight success.
Yeah, 100%. So and if you're sitting there being like, all right, 10,000 hours, I'm clocking hour 1.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Well, I'm at 2,000 of my 10,000 hours, only 8,000. Like,
only 8,000 to go.
That's what I'm saying. If you're thinking about it like that, you're probably doing it wrong. It's totally. It's the equivalent of being in class or at work and just watching the clock.
Yes, it goes by so much slower.
Right.
And you'd like waste so much time thinking about the clock. So you don't even like gain anything, like, or you don't perform at your highest level when you're at work or you're at school. You know what I'm saying?
So that's probably the best way that I can put it.
Yeah, that's a great analogy.
Is exactly like, it is a lot of time. Definitely. I think about the amount of time I've spent over the last 10 years or more, but I was never counting it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I was just so like ingrained in it, and it's such a part of my life to where I don't even know what else I would be doing with that time. So I'm not sitting there counting it and tracking it and acting like it like really means anything. And this is just who I am, and this is how I live. Just like, I don't know, if you're a fitness freak, you're just doing it and you're not thinking like, oh, I did 25,000 hours of lifting. It's like, no, I just want to feel fit because I feel good.
Yeah.
It's just a different sort of a mindset. As far as the money though, to like bring it back to the original question, it's definitely something that helps For sure, especially as it comes to equipment. If you're going to do anything DIY, like there is an investment that you have to make. And we have, the best of the best tools available to us. And we've built up this studio space over the years. And that's really been the biggest investment for us financially, is like the studio, to be able to make it work. If we didn't have that, our biggest investment would probably be studio time and renting space and working with people that we need to accomplish anything at all. But for us, the biggest investment has just been the studio, making sure that we have everything that we could ever want to like make any type of song that we could ever want to make.
Absolutely. And kind of speaking to listeners, I think that's a really important part, like for you guys as a band, like investing in your own equipment to be able to take out the expense of having to hire engineers and hire different people and hope that they work well with you and hope that they understand the vision and understand your vision because it's your song. I think that's something that a lot of people like would like to do, and it's hard to do, especially when you like not only have to invest the money to get the equipment, but you also have to know how to use that equipment.
Yeah, you have to invest the time again. It's like learning how to use it.
You personally, you're not the one behind the sticks, and that's
thank God.
Thank God for Timo and Sean.
Thank God,
being workhorses that they are, like trying to make sure that those are dialed into the T's.
Yeah, but, it's crazy. Going over the new mixes, even just the rough mixes for the upcoming EP, and then playing it back to back with some of our very earliest work, like it sounds so much different.
Yeah.
And it's crazy how every step of the way I thought like this is the best possible mix and master. Like we will not get past this. But I'll play some old songs that literally sound like I have like a voice in front, like hands in front of my voice, and I'm like, why do I sound so muffled? Why do the guitars sound so muffled? Like it's all just gotten so much better to where nowadays, like we get a lot of compliments on our mixes and our masters and our show mixes, even like how we mix instrumentals into our live set. Like it just comes with just being studio rats.
Totally.
And just like I said, just living it. Just living it every single day. And Timo and Sean are unbelievable. And not only that, you haven't been in a lot of sessions with Thad, but Thad, same thing. Like Thad will sit there and work on his own guitar tones inside of Pro Tools and record himself, or like record a full demo and send us all the stems. Like Thad is very, very savvy too, to where like now 3 out of the 4 of us are like fucking full engineers, capable of putting out like really, really quality mixes. So I just sit back and like focus on the words. Like,
hey man, no, and you do it well. And I think it's like it's bigger than that too, because you're like the front man all through and through. Because like you're the guy people come up to after. You're the guy kind of like the face of the band in a way. And it's like Thad, does his thing and like gets out there with his guitar, but it's just like Sean and Tim, they kind of tend to take the back seat. That's just kind of their personalities in a way.
And then Tim handles all like the graphics and all that stuff.
But that's like still like behind the scenes type stuff.
He also handles like the paperwork and the contracts and like the distribution, and
that's huge.
And all that sort of stuff. So where Tim is just like a Swiss Army knife of a human being. And he's really turned himself into that. He hasn't always been that. He's just turned himself into a workhorse to where like, he's kind of the engine that makes it all go. Yeah. And then I'm just like, I get to sit back and be the face of it, and when people think of this modern, they think of me first.
For sure. And I mean, like any band.
Yep, exactly. And, after the shows, I'm the one taking the pictures and signing the autographs and just meeting people and trying to connect with folks. Which is what I love to do anyways, I'd rather do that.
For sure. But it's like you need the team to be able to do that, because like when you're doing all that, what's happening in the background? They're tearing down the set.
They're tearing down the set.
They're getting everything packed up.
They're loading up the van. They're
so
doing
by the time everything's done, it's just like, all right, let's hit it. Let's or stay and like watch the bands or whatever. But
and Amy's like slinging the merch with Nicole or whatever.
It takes a village. Yeah, and that's just like it's something that you need, that team, and like you need those people that are on your side that are investing their time. And Timo, I know he's invested a grip load of money into the band. It's just like that's something that he's done with like he wants to do it. He's done it with like
he's addicted.
He's addicted to it, and he's always been a very curious dude. Like I feel like every time that that there was something to be learned, it was just like, well, how do we learn it? You know, it's just like, how do we do that? How can we do this? How can we do that? How can we do this?
And he'd figure it out like that.
And it was just like, yeah, Timo's like definitely like a
weapon.
Swiss Army knife is a great way to put it.
Absolute weapon. Sean's a weapon. Tim's a weapon. Thad's a weapon. Like,
for sure.
And I'm sure they would say the same thing about me in different ways, but like,
yeah,
especially like from a live performance standpoint, like if I wasn't up there just like being the front man that I am, I don't even know how far we would be, you know? And so I think from their perspective too, they'll be like Marcus weapon. So at least I hope so, guys.
Guys,
I'm a weapon, right?
I'm a weapon. Oh man. So with this modern, you guys signed a deal at one point, and I just kind of want to talk about how like nowadays, how it's not as important to be on a record label, and how like sometimes people still idolize the idea of being on any label, even if it's like an indie label. Yeah, take a drink for this one. But kind of speak on that and like what like the experience was like, and also if you feel like that is true, that you don't need a label, like you can definitely DIY this and do like other deals like distribution and like owning your masters, and not doing 360s and stuff like that.
So first and foremost, like it's all love between me and like the label owner. Still like a great dude, and it's really no hard feelings. When we got, and you were there for this part that I'm about to talk about, years ago, Red Bull wanted to sign us for like half a second. It feels like we had a couple great meetings, and we even had like some figures thrown out there that like all of us, you included, felt like our lives were about to just change massively.
Yes.
And then when that did not end up happening, I think there was kind of like a part of me that just wanted what I couldn't have. Right. And so I guess in my mind, it's like I wanted that deal with Red Bull so bad that it was almost like I would have probably taken anything, you know, once that slipped through. Like I was so addicted to that feeling of like, I'm going to be signed. And like, so when 59X approached us originally, we just wanted to be on a fucking record label. Like, I don't even know how else to really put it. Like, we just wanted that feeling. We wanted to feel like a signed band. We had been so close, and here's another opportunity, and it's almost like, well, we can't let this one slip, you know? And so it was fine. I think that record label specifically is set up for bands who need recording help.
Yeah.
Because that was like the biggest incentive is like, we'll fly you to Atlanta and you can record at our studio for free. And to guys like us who have our own studio, whose mixes might even sound better than those mixes, like, what do we really need it for? And so by the time we had done a couple releases and they weren't funding anything, you know, they weren't funding music videos, they weren't funding like release promos, nothing like that. So it was almost like, what are we even doing?
Yeah.
I can't use your recording services. You're not funding anything in terms of like getting us out there. And it was like right in the heart of COVID too. So like we never even got to fly to Atlanta to meet in person and like actually see what they were doing. I think it was just a case of like we wanted it so bad because we had missed out on it prior with that other label.
And it's funny how like and by the way, I used to be in the band. That's why he said that. So we were approached.
Different version of the band, but
different. It was a different version prior to this. Well,
yeah.
It was like
it was teammate Marcus.
It was teammate Marcus. Technically, we went on tour, and you know there was some buzz around the name, and there were some songs that were buzzing a little bit, but. It's funny because like you're right, like after we got that number thrown at us, we met in a hotel lobby. We were all kind of like nervous to meet up with this dude.
I remember leaving that meeting,
exec meeting.
You remember leaving that meeting,
dude? We were all like gassed,
just walking from the fucking lobby of the hotel back to our cars.
Yeah,
I will never. I got goosebumps literally right now thinking about it. I will never ever ever forget that feeling of like everything is about to change. Holy shit! Like we did it. You know what I mean? Totally. I remember being this close to just quitting my job. I told my dad, like, He was like, you need to calm down.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, no, I'm telling you.
It's like
this.
He listened to the song in 10 seconds and he's like, oh, this is it.
Yeah.
6 figures.
For sure. And like, remember at the table, bro, he was like, well, Hollywood on Dead's on tour right now. Let me see if I can get you on a fucking show, at least the Phoenix show. I'm going to text Joel Madden from Good Charlotte right now, who does Madden Brothers Management or whatever. Like, he's sending us, sending him off links, and we're sitting there at the table like, this is real.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
He's blowing all the smoke. But it's like that goes to show you that like a lot of talk is cheap in this industry a lot of times, and it's just like they'll tell you one thing to your face, but then like their mind changes later when there's another opportunity, or they just forget about you. They don't really know you like that.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like you gotta kind of like have the DIY mindset.
Yeah,
you gotta make it yourself.
Yeah,
so that way you have a concept so that way labels eat it up. If that's your goal, to like partner with a label, even if it's not to get signed.
Yeah,
partner like on a distribution
level, or anything like that, or management level, even like there's all sorts of deals, and that one just wasn't for us. And then on top of that, there were just a couple instances where we would release something, and the owner of the label wouldn't like it, or so we'd kind of go back and forth, like, what do you even know? This is our shit, like.
Exactly.
And so there was like a little bit of that feeling of like, damn, this guy really feels like he has a voice,
like creative control.
And he doesn't have a voice, when in reality, like, no, he just signed us. He absolutely has a voice. And so like well, it was kind of a unwillingness for us to like bend at certain points or budge at all on like our vision. He would want certain things out of us, or he would want our videos to look a type of way. And it wasn't ever anything like our vision just didn't align at all. And so, we still are, I say it like we're like all the way done with them. I'm still like managed by 59X through Amy, who's been managing me since 2016 or 2017.
Right.
She's still very closely affiliated with them. And so like from a management level, Amy still manages us. She is now like affiliated with 59X. So we're not a part of the 59X universe, I guess. But it wasn't a good record label fit for us. And like I said, I say that with all due respect.
Totally. And I'm sure he understands that too, because like, just like you said it, bro, it's like, what can they offer you guys that you don't already have? And like, that's it. You can just leave it at that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm sorry, but like, you guys can't offer us anything that we can't do ourselves. Or if you were offering us like hundreds of thousands of dollars in financing or something like that. Yeah,
promotional stuff.
If you were offering marketing, if you were offering shows, if you were offering tours, these are like how you can get negotiations rolling for real. But it's like, you're just saying you'll fly us out for studio time when we record ourselves. It's like,
and like we didn't.
What's the point?
It's not like the mixes that he was putting out were bad, but they were a different kind of music. Like ours is we use a lot of synths and samples and stuff in our kind of, I guess, version of rock.
Yeah.
And his shit, it was just more like DI, like there's a guitar track, a bass track, drums, and a fucking singer. You know what I mean? We're just a little bit more complex, and I didn't hear a lot of the mixes that he was churning out like on par with what we were doing. Not even from a quality, but more from a style perspective, I would say.
Yeah. Absolutely. Hey, well, I mean, I'm glad that you guys kept doing your thing and didn't see that as like oh man, like we got here and then like get discouraged because it's just like not what you wanted. No. And I feel like some people might feel like, oh, I got signed, but like this sucks. And then just like maybe music and, getting that whole process might have turned them off completely. Yeah. So it's just like, but you guys, I feel like you guys went into it already kind of having the mindset of like an independent, like DIY artist. Exactly. So it's just like, when it didn't go right, you're like, okay, well, back to the drawing board. You know, like back to the regularly scheduled program.
Yeah, it's just like we'll continue to do what we're doing. We just won't have a meeting with every week, and like that's really the only thing that will change. And so we got out of it earlier than we were supposed to, thanks to Amy's like relationship with them.
Shout out.
It was like it was a two-way street. It was super amicable. There was no hard feelings. There weren't any like arguments or legal situations involved. It was just like clean. All right, we release you. And so it was like, great.
Yeah, man. I mean, thank God for Amy, bro. That shit, because I feel like that, getting out of a record label is always the hardest part.
Without lawyers.
Yeah, without lawyers.
You know what I mean?
Like the hardest part.
Amy is our lawyer, basically.
Yeah, basically, she negotiated that deal for sure. Yeah, man. Shout out to Amy for sure.
Big shout out to Amy.
But yeah, I mean, you guys are. I feel like don't need like. I think you're in a position to have like leverage. You know, where like if you did have a label approach you, it's just like okay, but
right,
it's not like you're owning everything. You know, it's like maybe just distribution, maybe just like. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and
limited deal.
I don't remember who I was telling this to the other day, but if like let's say we were in that same situation with Red Bull today, like today that went down instead of whatever 5-6 years ago. Today that went down, he would have heard the music, enjoyed it, been all excited like he was, and then he would have done his back end research and like our Spotify numbers and like our show records and all that shit. Like now it would make sense. Whereas back then, we had no monthly listeners on Spotify, very little social media presence to where like, even if the music was good, it still wasn't enough for them to throw us like some life-changing money. And so when they ghosted us, it was a lot of like, why, how? Then I realized that like if I was him and like I liked the music, but then I looked in the back end and there was like nothing going on there.
Exactly.
That's where all the momentum would have stopped.
For sure.
So like right now, I don't think that would have been the case. He would have then done his back end research and been able to see everything that we've done and see our numbers and see like the shows we've been able to do and at least some level of like social media activity to where we've got all these crazy recaps and remixes and collaborations. And I just feel like if that same opportunity presented itself today, we would be in a better spot for it. Not that I'm eager to get back on a label at any kind, but I do feel like it would have like made more sense.
Totally.
You know?
Yeah, and that also may have been the reason why like it didn't end up working out. It's like at all. Like it's just we weren't ready. We weren't ready for it. You know? And I don't think like musically and like musically we were dope, you know, and that's just like, you know,
super unique. Yeah.
Can't say that like we weren't, but it's just like we weren't ready to be at the level that we wanted to be at that time.
Exactly.
And it's just like all this time that we've had to develop since then. Like I can't even imagine now, like if that would have happened, like would that have been the best thing for us? You know, and that's like something where it's like it's really hard to say now, obviously, but it's just like we weren't in a position to like have like we didn't have numbers like you said, so it's just like we would have been thrown into something that maybe we would have like not been successful at because we didn't have prior success already. So it's just
we're just like
think about that a lot.
We're studio rats. Like I'm not a social media marketer. I'm not anything but just a guy who likes to fucking write songs.
Yeah.
Like I said, over the years, like we've gotten better at doing certain things that are expected of artists in 2023. But at that time, we weren't doing any of that. So we had the music. The music was there. The music's always been there because that's the only thing we fucking cared about ever.
Right.
It was just like making the music.
Yeah.
And so the fact that we didn't have anything going on the back end, I feel like hurt us in that instance.
For sure. Yeah, you probably heard it and it was just like, oh, this is sweet. And then like after we left, he like looked us up and he's just like, who are these guys?
Shit, this video they released has 300 views.
Yeah,
and
it's like
they have less than 1,000 followers and like nobody's listening to them on
He's like, there's no way I'm bringing this up to my boss.
Yeah,
yeah.
Exactly.
It's like, you know, like why would he put his name 100%. On that?
And at that time, I don't even think that we were thinking like that. We were like, none of this makes sense.
And I think we were so young too. Like this was 6-7 years ago.
Yeah.
Which is like a long time ago.
Yeah.
So it's like we were young and like almost like I guess immature to like the fact that like people kind of tend to blow smoke.
Yeah.
Like that. It was our first real like industry like I feel like interaction, like because that happens all the time.
Right. 100%.
To so many people.
So I just, I feel like I at that time I was just like feeling very hurt about it to where I couldn't allow myself to really see it from his perspective.
Yeah.
Like the only perspective I saw was mine and ours.
It was easy to take it personally.
Yeah, taking it personally and being like, why would anyone like throw numbers out there, get us all excited just to back out at the last minute? Like from like a, I don't know, ethical perspective, I think I was like, that's just bad form. Like, can't do that. Totally. Like, that's fucked up. But ultimately it's just business.
It's just business.
It's just business, and we weren't ready to do it.
Yeah,
not at the scale that he was doing it.
So I think one thing about this modern that's just kind of talking back on the current band, like one thing that sets you guys apart is like the live show and like the stage presence, and I think that kind of that interaction with like the crowd, like the way that you just kind of wow the crowd every time. I think that's like a big thing.
Yeah.
Would you say that that's like one of the major investments of time that you guys do is like putting into your live show and like getting shows all together?
Getting shows, not so much.
But when you do get them, you make sure that they're top of the line.
The thing about us, and it's always kind of been that, is that I don't want to play every weekend. You know, I see bands who are just like, catch me here Saturday, catch me here Wednesday, catch me here Saturday. Because it's just not exclusive enough. Maybe that's not the right word, but it's just
You're
like
oversaturating
yourself. If you can't,
for sure.
you know, if you can't catch me this week and it's all good, I play 2 days from now. If you can't catch that, I play 3 days from now. To where if we're super selective and only play like once a quarter, it's like every time we step on stage, it's an event, you know, and it's easier to sell tickets that way.
Yep.
And
it's more of an event.
Yeah, exactly. Just trying to like only do the shows that can potentially boost us from somewhere. And that's not a shot at like any local artists. We don't do a whole lot of just like local shows that are just local bills, because it's like that's not really going to push me anywhere. Like it's going to be like a lower attendance, and I might get in front of some new ears, but it's just a lot of time to get in front of just like 5-6 new people. So I try to only play the shows where I know like the headliner is going to be able to either sell it out by himself or need very little support.
Yep.
It just makes it easier for us. But yeah, from the light show, we travel full lights, which like nobody does that. We have the lights hooked up to our MIDI through Ableton, and so we just click play and the shit just goes automatically.
It's all synced up.
Yeah. I don't ever have an instrument or anything in my hands, and so I watch a lot of bands whose frontmen are uncomfortable without an instrument in their hands, or you feel like it looks weird for whatever reason. And I've never felt like our show has looked weird or felt weird because of my like not having a guitar in my hand.
Yeah, for sure.
And that has everything to do with me performing so many shows as a rapper, where I never had an instrument in my hand.
Exactly.
I had a microphone in myself and like my own ability to, I guess, move my body and just like connect with the people that are in the audience. And so from a stylistic standpoint, I'm still like very much like a rapper when I'm up there. But it means everything. Like the live show, we thrive so much in the live show environment. And I used to think people would just kind of be blowing smoke, you know, whatever. Yeah. It's just gotten crazy. Like after the Mesa Music Festival, dude, I think I might have even told you this little girl from Germany.
Yeah.
And her family were there. And she was like, I'm in town visiting family here in the United States, and I saw that you guys were playing tonight. I made them come. I could not even believe you guys were playing We Know Unholy in Germany. Just like, no fucking way.
Yeah, and it's funny, like we were talking about that the other day, and I was saying how it's funny how like online you can see like, I have a listener in Germany. Cool. But like someone comes to your hometown from Germany and they're here and they're like, whoa.
Taking pictures. Can we get a picture? Okay, now picture with us two. Us three. Sign this. Sign my shirt. We're going to buy a CD. I'm going to buy one for my friend back home. Like, it was just like, holy cow. Like,
sounds like we got to go on a European tour, brother.
Yeah. For some reason, dude, we're getting so many streams out of Minneapolis.
Minnesota?
Yeah. No idea.
Midwest, baby?
Maybe. So I was just like, fuck, I got to hit Minneapolis. That's Midwest, dude. Minneapolis. I'm on the way.
Let's go to Grand Rapids.
Yeah.
Minneapolis.
I'm down.
Yeah, dude.
I still got to get to Grand Rapids.
You do. Yeah, we should try to book a show out there. I mean, I got some connections I could maybe try to see like if anyone knows like the promoters at the venues, because I have connections like at businesses in Grand Rapids, not at the venues, but maybe like I could pull some strings. Or something like
see what we can do. We'll make it happen. Grand Rapids and Minneapolis. Stay tuned.
So you guys are, like I said earlier, you guys are like putting your foot on the gas. You're consistently writing new music. You know, you have all these songs in the can just ready to drop. You've been dropping releases every month. You have a new EP that you just announced kind of officially on your story. But which was kind of funny. You're just like, I officially announcing, just like, okay, well, I guess this is the announcement.
Yeah, so I was just like, it's a fact, it's happening. It's so funny too. And I don't know if Tim's gonna be mad I'm telling this story. So Tim has a thing where he kind of overthinks.
Yeah.
So he'll listen to it 10 times and be like, I don't think the songs like flow well enough to, back to back to back to like put them on the same project.
Yeah.
Which he never said. He never expressed that concern whatsoever. We had a meeting about it. We did a whole ass thing. Never expressed any concern. The day I fucking announced that, I get to the studio and Sean's like, hey, I don't know if we're dropping an EP anymore. I was like, no fucking way. Like, impossible. Like, I got all worked up and I'm like, what the fuck? Like, we just had a meeting about it. No one expressed no fucking concerns. All of a sudden, I go on my Instagram and broadcast that the EP is coming. And then it's so funny. I was like, listen to what I said. I play it and I'm like, the EP is coming out. No doubt this is a fact. And I was like,
how do I come back from this?
And so,
what do you mean we're not dropping the EP?
I was like, what the hell does that even mean?
100%, no fail.
But then you change your mind. Like, we start working on some songs, cleaning shit up. All of a sudden, we take a few shots and we're like, well, maybe we shouldn't just drop an EP. We'll make a full album because we're looking at songs like, we've got like 11 songs that we could do a full length album. Hell, but like, there's 7 of them that I feel very strongly about.
Yeah.
And so I think we're going to do the EP.
Yeah. I mean, 7 is the EP, right?
Yeah. 7 will be an EP. And it's so funny. I think it's actually has more to do with minutes.
Yeah.
I think anything over 30 minutes of playtime would be considered an album. So I think it's less about the number of tracks and more about the time.
It's interesting because I did like Martian and the Red Planet, and one of them had 7, one of them had 6. So Martian had 7, which is my first drop. Red Planet had 6. So Red Planet goes under my singles and EPs, which is dumb.
Weird,
and Martian
right?
is 7 tracks and goes on
the albums.
It's my only album technically. So I think it's like 6 versus 7.
Yeah, I don't like that they do that. Like loop in the singles and the EPs. It's like I feel like the EPs should exist with the albums, and at least like
I agree because the EPs generally have more than one song.
Correct.
Yeah.
So I think, as of right now, it's very second. Yeah, absolutely. I don't see us changing our mind about that. But yeah, it's going to be called Wasted Silence is the name of the EP.
Has that been?
No, and I don't know when this is coming out, but depending on when this drops, it might already be out there. So if not, this will be like my official announcement of it. But yeah,
this will probably drop within the next few weeks.
Wasted Silence is the name of the EP. It's actually, there's a song on the record called Wasted Silence, which I think I played for you last time I was over here.
Right.
So yeah, it's just like basically named after that track.
Cool.
And it's this idea of like, the world is so chaotic. Like you walk out those doors, like there's chaos fucking everywhere. And so those moments that you do get to just be like present, silent, I guess just present is probably the best way that I could put it. Like
totally.
When the world is so chaotic, you have to appreciate the moments that are not, the moments that you are actually able to find that peace. And so the line is, there is no wasted silence, not in a landscape like the one that we live in. Like silence, like it might feel boring or whatever, like in this go ass world, but like you can't waste those moments because the world is so chaotic to where like, there is no wasted silence, not now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's kind of I've never really verbalized it a ton, but that's kind of the choppy version of what that means.
Yeah, like the concept behind the album.
Yeah, and that line, wasted silence. So
yeah, that's sweet. I mean, you guys are still writing for that right now, even though you have songs for it. You're still like just writing and just gonna write more than you need, and then just cut.
Yeah, and a lot of that has to do with just us being studio rats. Like, any song that doesn't make the EP is never going to come out. It's just not going to come out in that body of work. So always writing, always writing. And we might make a last minute like substitution, take out this track, add this track, whatever. But I feel pretty comfortable with the 7 songs that we've got. So yeah, that's going to come out Friday, October 13th.
Wasted
Silence. Yep, Friday the 13th.
Nice. So Friday, October 13th is the official EP drop date.
Starting in August and September, we're back in the lab with Zach, like full time.
Okay.
I don't want to speak too much on what he's got going on, but stay tuned because
that's exciting.
He's gonna be announcing some crazy shit soon.
Round 2, baby.
I'll tell you off camera.
Yes, for sure.
Because I don't want to speak on another man's situation.
Yes, absolutely.
But we're gonna be like really amping up our own activity with him. Cool. Specifically with the remixes on Holy just did so phenomenally well, and the other tracks did very, very well too. So August and September, it's gonna be heavy like remix season. Hoping one of those catches, and hopefully we can be. And I say this because it's a goal of mine. I don't know that we'll get close, but like if I can be at 500,000 monthly listeners based on some remixes by the time that EP drops on October, that's what I'm saying. So that's
2024.
Correct.
We set up nuts.
Yeah. So that's what in fact, me and Zach been on the phone going back and forth. He is on the EP. He just sent me his verse today. So we need to get him into the studio to lay that down. He's on a song called Erase Me, and it's a super fun ass track. But what was I saying? I forget.
We were talking about just
the remixes and like getting my shit.
Yeah, getting back into the studio with Zach and kind of like moving forward. And
basically, we'll pick some popular songs, remix them into rock, throw them out on Instagram, YouTube, Spotify. He was like, well, I don't want to be stepping on your guys' toes. I know you got an EP coming out. I don't want to fucking confuse the listeners. I was like, dude, it's only going to help us. Like if we can get, let's say we get 2-3 remixes out in the month leading up to the drop, we're going to have more eyes and ears on us than ever before. Like, and then we're going to have a better chance on getting on like editorials and shit like that if we've got these wild numbers coming in. So just trying to play it as smart as I can, but I do anticipate like we're only going to be writing and releasing more prior to that EP drop, just trying to feed the beast.
Yeah, absolutely. Man, so new EP dropping in October 2023 with the Futuristic feature, which
we got a feature too from another band from Pennsylvania called Sharia Moore.
I think I feel like we've talked about it, or maybe Tim.
They do pretty well out there. The one thing about them, I don't think they have as many like monthly listener count for whatever that means, but they have more like streams on every song. Like they've got more songs in 1 million than us. And then on top of that, they tour a shit ton. And they got awesome tour packages. They were just on the package with Ryan Oakes and all that sort of stuff. And so they've got like a diehard following, you know?
That's probably why.
And so Thad, who kind of fills in for them every once in a while, was able to connect it. So their lead singer, Trey, is getting on Wasted Silence, the song.
Nice.
And then Futuristic will be on Erase Me. So we will have at least those 2 features, unless something else falls into our laps between then and now. But I don't think it will.
Dude, so I mean, but other than that, it's all gonna be the ones that you guys are writing right now, and like just other solo songs.
Yeah, everything is written. Like I've got a couple like instrumentals that I could write to right now, but the EP, as I see it, is written and done. In fact, last night I believe we wrapped up everything that I needed to like get on recording for it, both guitar wise and vocal wise. So now it's just a matter of mixing and mastering it, which Tim will tinker until like the 11th hour. Like
absolutely.
If it's due on Friday, he'll be tinkering until Thursday at 11:59 p.m.
For sure.
That's just what he does.
Yeah. So on that, we were kind of talking about you're dropping the EP. So kind of talk about like the real quick before we wrap up, like the dropping singles versus dropping an EP, kind of like pros and cons, and like why would you do one or the other?
Yeah. The singles is just kind of like the Russ approach, flood the streets. You know what I mean? Like he does song a week or whatever the fuck he did. Like, and in talking to another band that's doing phenomenally well, we were able to meet with them and like record a feature on Zach's album that he dropped this year, Magnolia Park. And they had told us no matter what, they release every month, whether it's a song that they're featured on or their own song or whatever, like. And they all came to the agreement, like, not every song that we release is going to be, like, our favorite song in the world. And we have to be okay with that. Because, you know, every song is good, but you're going to have varying degrees of, like, what you connect to the most.
Yeah.
So they told us, like, release every single month. Don't worry about making every song your absolute favorite. it's just like a psychology, just like in anything, you know. If you see me one time on your release radar, you might not be inclined to click. But by the time you've seen me 4, 5, 6, 7 times consecutively, an ear might raise, and you're just gonna be like, I'm gonna at least try it. And with the algorithm as it is, just with any algorithm, Spotify, Instagram, regardless, like you get rewarded for posting more. And so I just told the band at the beginning of the year, like, the only thing that we can do to fuck up the situation that we're in with this like newfound audience that we have on Spotify is to just stop.
Yeah.
Right. If we release once a quarter, like 3 times a year or whatever, like that's never going to get us to where we want to be. We're going to see that shit go down and down and down until it's at a place that we're not comfortable. So I just told everybody, like, we have to release a single every month. So our original plan was like single every month to the end of the year.
Yeah.
So that's the pros. The cons become when you're releasing every month, it's hard to get press for everything. Right. So if you're on a thing where it's like, you know, Amy's doing her due diligence and sending out emails and trying to get us, you know, I don't know, whether it's like a premiere or just some general press about it, it gets hard to do that. It's like, all right, this week is this, and then we release a song, and then by next week you already have to be pitching the next shit, and then by the, you know, 2 weeks later you already have to be pitching the next shit, and so you create a situation where you can't actually devote as much time and effort into those releases when they're happening every single month. And so that's kind of what we found. On one hand, it's nice to flood the market. On the other hand, it's hard to garnish like any sort of momentum and like excitement and hype around it when you're doing it every month.
Because there's less going into each one.
Exactly.
That makes sense.
So when we all of a sudden we looked at our catalog and we had almost 10 songs ready to go, we were like, it's probably time. You know what I mean? We still want to maintain like our debut album for hopefully a day where we can legitimately drop something and do some real damage with it.
Yeah.
So EP is kind of the route for now. But yeah, man. So I think the other thing, just as a creative, like I just love dropping a full body of work.
For sure.
I love it.
I love listening to a full body of work as like a music lover, you know, like listening from start to finish and kind of seeing like the whole piece of,
And fewer people are on that shit these days, like listening to a full album.
Yeah.
So we'll see how it goes. I'm confident. I'm very hopeful that it's going to do pretty well.
Yeah.
But yeah, as a creative, one of those pros to dropping an EP is there's like a certain itch that comes with like, you want to drop a body of work. I want to promote an album and an EP. Like there's a part of me as a creative that just wants that. And so that's the biggest pro for me. It also give us some time. It's not coming out until October. So we've got like 4 full months to just like lock in. Hopefully get a full music video ready for our second single and just get a bunch of press. Like I said, if we can be releasing those remixes and shit consistently during that time, I just feel like by October, like we might be in a really prime position to release and like have it go somewhere.
Absolutely. Well, this has been amazing. Thank you so much, man.
Yes,
Go
sir.
follow him on Instagram at thismodern, at this MDRN. Follow Marcus at Modern Marcus, MDRN Marcus with a C.
And with the C.
Yeah, it's there is one last thing I want to try to squeeze in here. You don't have to comment on it, but it's a song I found earlier that's old school Marcus Reardon featuring Caleb Klug.
Oh, and Brandon's on this.
Yes, so So on that note, thank you to my fellow Martians. This has been another episode of On Mars featuring my brother, Marcus Reardon. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Dab me up here.
Oh, my bad.
My dog. Thank you so much.
On Mars.
On Mars.
We're going to the moon, baby.
On Instagram, at On Mars Pod, at Harry Mars _. Love you guys.
Love. I was like, what is Caleb on?
Hey guys, thank you so much for tuning in and watching this episode of the On Mars Pod and for sticking around to the end, man. I really appreciate you guys. You are the real Martians. Like this video, comment below what your favorite part was, what was most inspiring to you. Subscribe to the channel, hit that bell for notifications here on future interviews coming out soon, and also follow us on Instagram at On Mars Pod. Love you guys so much. We will see you next time on Mars.